The jewelry brands that once defined engagement season, milestone gifts, and quiet status are being quietly abandoned. The same names that sparked waitlists and sold-out collections are now sitting untouched in cases. Resale values are slipping, searches are cooling, and shoppers who once dreamed of owning these pieces are walking right past them toward names most people have never heard of. This shift affects anyone buying jewelry today, because what once signaled timeless taste is rapidly losing prestige. This is not a trend, it is a takeover. Today, we're revealing 7 luxury jewelry brands people are walking away from, and the new favorites replacing them. Number 1 will genuinely surprise you. Number 7, Tiffany & Co. For generations, Tiffany was the default. The little blue box was not just packaging, it was permission to dream, a signal that you had crossed some invisible line into adulthood, into success, into a life where special moments came wrapped in robin's egg blue. For decades, the brand owned engagements, graduations, and every milestone worth marking. But something has shifted, and the numbers tell the story. In 2024, LVMH's chief financial officer publicly acknowledged that Tiffany was under pressure. The flagship store in New York reportedly missed monthly sales targets of around $25 million repeatedly in the first quarter. Employee turnover at that location hit roughly 75% within a single year. Meanwhile, competitor Richemont, which owns Cartier and Van Cleef, posted a 4% increase in jewelry sales during the same period. Tiffany lost about 0.7 percentage points of market share in the global branded luxury jewelry sector in 2023 alone. The bridal category, which represents a disproportionately large share of Tiffany's American business, has been under particularly intense pressure. So what happened? Part of it is perception. Younger buyers increasingly describe Tiffany's core designs as predictable. The silver heart tags, the bean pendants, the classic solitaires. Once these were the language of aspiration. Now, to a generation raised on transparency and individuality, they feel like something your mother would wear. Safe, obvious, a little too familiar. The designs that once felt timeless now just feel tired. And when a brand built on romance starts feeling like routine, the emotional connection phrase. And that is exactly where new players have stepped in. Brands like Virai and Mijurai are attracting the buyers Tiffany once owned. Virai offers lab-grown diamonds with clean, modern settings and radical pricing transparency. Mijurai, the Toronto-based direct-to-consumer darling, provides everyday fine jewelry without the traditional retail markup. Their waitlists regularly exceed 100,000 people. Both brands speak to a customer who wants quality without the legacy tax. Tiffany is not dying. It still commands respect, still moves product. But it is no longer the automatic first choice. And in luxury, when you stop being the default, you start being the fallback. But if Tiffany got caught between heritage and relevance, the next brand on our list lost something even more fragile: its cultural moment. Number 6. Pandora. There was a time when Pandora bracelets were everywhere. Every wrist at the office, every birthday gift from a thoughtful friend, every milestone marked with another charm, another bead, another story strung along a silver chain. It was personal, it was collectible, and for a while, it felt genuinely special. Then, like so many things that start as intimate, it became mass. Pandora's problem started showing in the data years ago. In 2018, charm sales declined 7% in the first quarter alone, and the CEO stepped down by the end of summer. The company itself acknowledged that consumers were wearing fewer charms per bracelet, dropping from 6 or 7 down to 5. Fast forward to 2025, and the China story has become a cautionary tale. Pandora's revenue share from that market plummeted from 9% in 2019 to just 1% last year. Comparable sales in China dropped 15% in the second quarter of 2025, even as the company posted modest global gains. The brand is now closing up to 100 stores in mainland China, a dramatic retreat from what was once considered a key growth market. What went wrong? The charm concept, once unique, became common. Competitors flooded the market with knockoffs. Traditional gold jewelry houses like Chao Sang Sang and Luk Fook launched their own customizable gold charm bracelets, making Pandora's proposition feel less differentiated. And, for a generation that values lasting value and understated elegance, a bracelet loaded with themed charms started to look more like clutter than collection. The very thing that made Pandora special, that sense of building something personal over time, began to feel juvenile, cute but not sophisticated, fun but not forever. The brand is trying to pivot. Lab-grown diamonds now represent one of its fastest-growing categories, with sales more than doubling in 2024. New collections like Pandora Essence and Pandora Talisman are designed to attract younger shoppers. But the core identity, that playful add-on, collect them all energy, now reads as dated to many. And with silver prices near 15-year highs, Pandora has been forced to raise prices multiple times, further eroding its value proposition. Meanwhile, brands like Aurate and Misoma are winning the everyday jewelry conversation. Aurate offers solid gold pieces at transparent prices, while Misoma has become a celebrity favorite for its demi-fine aesthetic. Both deliver what Pandora's original audience now wants: clean lines, real materials, and pieces that do not announce themselves. Pandora still sells to millions. But the crowd that once treasured charm bracelets has grown up. They want sophistication now, and they have moved on. Pandora faded because its moment passed. The next brand faces a deeper issue that strikes at luxury itself. Number 5. Swarovski. For decades, Swarovski occupied a strange and comfortable middle ground. Not quite fine jewelry, not quite costume. Somewhere in between, with just enough sparkle to feel elevated and just enough price accessibility to feel attainable. Crystal chandeliers, statement necklaces, holiday ornaments, the brand owned the category it created. But in a jewelry market that has decisively pivoted toward real materials and lasting value, that middle ground has become a dangerous place to stand. The core issue is perception. Swarovski crystals, however precisely cut, are not gemstones. They are glass, beautifully manufactured, precisely engineered glass, but glass nonetheless. Most pieces are set in plated metals rather than solid gold or silver, and in a world where consumers increasingly research what they are actually buying, that distinction matters. The resale market tells the truth. Swarovski jewelry generally does not hold its value like fine jewelry made with precious metals or natural gemstones. Pieces with plated finishes can tarnish, fade with exposure to chemicals or sunlight, and the materials themselves lack the intrinsic worth that drives secondary market demand. Try selling a Swarovski necklace on a resale platform, and you will quickly understand the difference between perceived luxury and actual value retention. The company itself is performing fine. In 2024, Swarovski reported revenue of nearly 2 billion euros, up 6% from the prior year. Jewelry specifically grew 9% organically. The brand has invested heavily in its LEX Ignite strategy, pushing what it calls a pop luxury positioning with bolder designs and collaborations. Lab-grown diamonds under the Swarovski-created diamonds line more than doubled in sales. The company even achieved its first fully positive operating profit in 5 years. But financial performance and cultural relevance are not the same thing. For a growing segment of buyers, especially those in the quiet luxury camp, crystal jewelry no longer signals sophistication. It signals compromise. The sparkle that once felt glamorous now reads as flashy. The accessibility that once felt democratic now feels like an admission that you could not afford the real thing. When shoppers can buy solid gold vermeil for similar prices from direct-to-consumer brands, the calculus changes entirely. This is exactly where brands like Stone and Strand and Catbird have carved out space. Stone & Strand offers solid gold and genuine gemstone pieces at approachable but still premium prices. Catbird, the Brooklyn-based jeweler, has turned delicate gold stacking rings into a cult movement. Both deliver what Swarovski's aspirational customers actually want now: real gold, real stones, real, lasting value. Swarovski is not going anywhere. But for buyers seeking actual fine jewelry, it has quietly slipped off the shortlist. Swarovski struggled because of what its materials represent. The next brand faces a tougher question. What happens when your signature design becomes your biggest limitation? If you are enjoying this breakdown, make sure you are subscribed so you never miss these luxury deep dives. Number 4. David Yurman. For more than 4 decades, David Yurman owned a very specific look: the twisted cable bracelet, sterling silver with gold accents, that unmistakable helix that became one of the most recognizable silhouettes in American jewelry. If you grew up in the 90s or early 2000s, you knew someone who wore one, maybe you still do. But that recognition is now cutting both ways. The cable bracelet has become so associated with a certain era and a certain shopper profile that younger buyers increasingly see it as dated. Not bad, not ugly, just not for them. The aesthetic feels heavy compared to the sculptural minimalism dominating current jewelry trends. And in a market that rewards freshness and quiet distinction, looking like something your mother stacked on her wrist 20 years ago is not a selling point. The very ubiquity that once signaled the brand's success now works against it. When you can spot a David Yurman cable from across a restaurant, it stops feeling like a personal choice and starts feeling like a uniform. The resale data tells an interesting story. David Yurman pieces generally retain 40 to 70% of their original retail price, which is strong compared to generic jewelry, but softer than ultra-collectible brands like Cartier. The most in-demand items remain the classics: cable bracelets, Albion rings, pieces with substantial gold or diamond content. But trend-driven designs and pieces with less universal appeal sit longer and sell for less. Sterling silver, which forms the backbone of many Yurman collections, simply does not command the same intrinsic value as solid gold, making resale a harder proposition. To be fair, David Yurman has not lost its quality or craftsmanship. The brand still uses solid sterling silver and genuine gemstones. It still commands respect among collectors. And recent TikTok discourse actually positions David Yurman as a rising favorite among some younger shoppers seeking value-conscious luxury. The brand offers fair pricing compared to competitors charging more for similar materials. But in the broader market, competitors have captured the minimalist energy that now defines modern fine jewelry. Brands like Sophie Bill Bras and Charlotte Chesnays offer sculptural, organic silhouettes that feel fresh and unexpected. Their pieces whisper rather than announce. They feel like art, not accessories. And for a generation that has internalized quiet luxury as the default setting, that whisper is far more appealing than a cable twist. David Yurman is still a respected name, but the aesthetic that built it is no longer setting the pace. David Yurman suffered from overfamiliarity. The next brand struggled because it stayed loud in a market that now rewards silence. Number 3. Bulgari Fashion. Jewelry lines. For decades, Bulgari represented something rare: Italian opulence that managed to feel both bold and refined. The Serpenti, the B01, designs that fused Roman heritage with unapologetic glamour. At its best, Bulgari jewelry felt like wearing architecture, statement pieces that commanded attention without apology. But in 2025, that kind of attention is exactly what many luxury buyers are trying to avoid. The quiet luxury movement has fundamentally reshaped how status gets communicated through jewelry. Oversized logos, unmistakable brand signatures, and pieces that announce themselves from across the room now read as "try hard" to a significant segment of affluent shoppers. They want pieces that whisper quality rather than shout provenance. And Bulgari's fashion jewelry lines, with their bold Bivilgari engravings and instantly recognizable motifs, sit uncomfortably in this new landscape. The snakeheads and chunky logo rings that once screamed power now risk screaming something else entirely: desperation for recognition. The parent company numbers reflect broader pressure. LVMH, which owns Bulgari, reported that its watches and jewelry division saw revenue decline 1% in the first half of 2025. The luxury market's customer base has contracted, dropping from roughly 400 million customers in 2022 to around 340 million in 2025. And within that shrinking pool, the wealthiest buyers are increasingly prioritizing brands that do not broadcast their price tags. They are shifting spending toward experiences, toward one-of-a-kind pieces, toward anything that does not feel mass-produced or easily identified. This is where heritage houses with subtler aesthetics are gaining ground. Buccellati, with its intricate lace like metalwork and textured gold, offers old-world craftsmanship without logo dependency. Chaumet, the French jeweler with deep historical roots, delivers refined elegance that flies under the radar. Both speak to buyers who want to signal taste rather than spending. Both feel discovered rather than displayed. Bulgari's high jewelry division, with its one-of-a-kind gemstone pieces, continues to attract collectors willing to spend into the millions. But the more accessible fashion lines, the ones designed to capture aspirational buyers, are facing an identity crisis. In a market that has turned against visibility, being recognizable is no longer automatically an asset. Bulgari is not struggling to survive, but its loudest pieces are increasingly speaking to an audience that has already left the room. Bulgari's volume worked against it. The next brand faces a different challenge entirely, keeping a 50-year-old design relevant to buyers who crave novelty. Number 2, Chopard Happy Diamonds. When Chopard introduced the Happy Diamonds concept in 1976, it was genuinely revolutionary. Diamonds floating freely between two sapphire crystals, moving with every gesture, catching light in unexpected ways. It was playful. It was feminine. And for decades, it occupied a category of one, luxury jewelry that felt alive. But nearly 50 years later, that whimsy has lost its edge. Brand awareness for Chopard in the United States sits at just 25% among jewelry owners. Only 5% of that group actually owns a piece. And the buzz metric, measuring recent media and social exposure, hovers around 5% as well. For a brand that once defined a category, those are quiet numbers in a loud market. The Happy Diamonds aesthetic, with its floating stones and often heart-shaped motifs, now reads as dated to many younger buyers. The design language feels rooted in an earlier era of femininity, one that prized cuteness and charm over the clean, architectural lines that dominate current trends. And while Chopard has expanded the Happy Diamonds family with newer silhouettes and sportier iterations like the Happy Sport watches, the core identity remains tied to that original playfulness. The dancing diamonds that once dazzled now feel like a gimmick to some. Meanwhile, a new generation of diamond-focused brands is capturing the modern buyer. Labels like Jade Roderick and Kin Studio offer diamond jewelry with minimal settings, clean geometry, and an aesthetic built for everyday wear rather than special occasions. These pieces do not float or dance. They sit flush against the skin, barely there but unmistakably present. It is luxury that does not perform. Chopard itself has leaned into sustainability and ethical sourcing, becoming a leader in responsibly sourced gold. That commitment resonates with conscious consumers. But commitment to ethics and resonance with current aesthetics are two different things. And for buyers who want their diamonds set in something modern, Chopard's signature look increasingly feels like it belongs to another time. The brand still commands respect among collectors. But the magic of those dancing diamonds has stopped moving as many shoppers as it once did. If Chopard's issue is about aesthetics frozen in time, the final brand on this list has the opposite problem. It is everywhere, and that is exactly the issue. Number 1. Cartier Love and Juste un Clou. There was a time when owning a Cartier Love bracelet meant something almost sacred. The ritual of having it screwed onto your wrist, the symbolism of commitment, the whispered exclusivity of a design that, since 1969, had become shorthand for having arrived. When Aldo Cipulo first created it, the bracelet cost around $250. Today, the plain gold version starts above $7,000. And yet, despite the price inflation, exclusivity has evaporated. Walk through any airport lounge, any brunch spot in a major city, any Pilates studio in a wealthy zip code, and you will see them, stacked, doubled, sometimes 4 or 5 on a single wrist. What was once rare has become routine, and in luxury, routine is the beginning of the end. The criticism has become unavoidable. Fashion commentators increasingly describe the Love bracelet as oversaturated, noting that the market is so flooded with them that Cartier will not even authenticate a piece unless you can prove it was purchased directly from them. The same sentiment applies to the Juste un Clou, the nail-shaped bracelet that once felt edgy and now feels like the next logical purchase after you already have the Love. Cartier itself remains enormously successful. Richemont, the parent company, reported 4% growth in its jewelry division, while competitors struggled. The Love bracelet still holds roughly 80% of its retail price on the resale market. And in 2025, Cartier launched the Love Unlimited, a new iteration designed to feel more flexible and modern. But financial performance and cultural cachet are different currencies. And among the most discerning luxury buyers, the ones who set trends rather than follow them, Cartier's signature bracelets have become exactly what they were designed to transcend: predictable. When everyone at the PTA meeting wears one, the exclusivity dissolves. When every influencer posts the same stack, the mystique fades. This is where niche high jewelry brands have stepped in. Spinelli Kilcolin offers interlocking ring designs that feel sculptural and unexpected. Suzanne Calan's baguette diamond pieces combine color and geometry in ways that feel distinctly modern. Both deliver what Cartier's core buyers originally sought, something that signals taste, not just budget. Something that still requires explanation. Cartier is not in trouble. The Love bracelet is not disappearing. But for a certain kind of shopper, the one who wants to own something that feels rare, the answer is increasingly to look elsewhere. So, what does this list really tell us? That luxury jewelry, like all luxury, runs on perception as much as materials. The brands that once defined aspiration are now defining ubiquity. And in a market where everyone can have it, the people who set the pace are already moving on. They are not chasing the names their parents saved for. They are finding new ones, smaller ones, quieter ones. Brands that still have room to feel like discovery rather than default. That is the game now. And the jewelry box is being quietly reshuffled. If this breakdown surprised you, drop a comment with which brand caught you off guard.